Welcome back to the Stitch Journal, everyone, and it's going to be the last time I'll work on this crazy patchwork page. And I've been wanting to do something with this really lovely hydrangea image, and considering how the little stumpwork bee came out so well, I thought I'd do some more stumpwork for here. Now, I don't want to do any wiring because I think that's a bit for later on in the year. We're just sort of building techniques up here. But there's still something I can do to make this look three-dimensional without going to all the bother of wiring and doing a huge amount of embroidery on it. So today I'm going to do some simple 3D flowers. What I've done, I've got a bit of my tracing paper, and I've just traced around one of the hydrangea flowers there, just so I know I'm going to get the shape. Now you can do this if you want to freehand draw something, you can do that either, but I am just going to cut this out now and use that as a little pattern for me to make my little flowers. So I can just very quickly cut this out. This is going to look so pretty. Now if you wanted to just embroider over the top, if you've got a lovely piece of floral fabric on your patchwork, then you can just embroider over the top of it and that'll be beautiful. However, this is also would be something to just take that a little bit further onwards. So I've got my little pattern for the hydrangea. I'm going to put it into this bit of fine fabric here. It's just a bit of lining off a curtain. I think I'm going to do it doubled because it is quite fine. I'm going to double the fabric and put it in my little hoop. I'll cut the excess fabric off just so it's out of my way. And I'm going to lie my little pattern on, and I'm just going to draw around it with a pencil, and I'm going to do 1, 2, 3. I'll do at least 3. So I'm just going to draw around that now, just to give myself the idea of where I need to go. I'm just going to just gently take it round. It's not really important I get the exact shape, it's more important that I get the sense of it. Okay. So now that that's done, I'm going to just make these really pretty. I'm going to start in the middles with a deep pink. I've picked out these 3 different pinks that I've got from my box. I've got quite a dark one, a mid-tone, and then this one is actually variegated, but I think the pinks will look nice. So they're the 3 that I'm going to use. I'm going to start with the dark one. So I've got 3 strands in my needle, and I'm going to start right. I'm not really taking any notice of what's here now. I just want to be able to do what I want to do to make these pretty. So I'm going to start right in the middle, and I'm just going to start taking stitches outwards, and I just want the pink, the dark pink, just to be at the middle. So I'll take my stitches round. Again, I'm not trying to fill every single one in all at the same time. I'll just carry on going around. It's easy to see what angle to make the stitches when you're not doing so many. So I'll just carry on round. I'm leaving a little place in the middle where I can end up with a French knot eventually. So that's why I'm leaving that little bit of space. And just carry on, just loosely putting the stitches where I think the dark area should be. And if you've got a piece of fabric with a rose on, or a peony, or any flower at all, you can definitely do this as well. So look, I've just changed my mind and I'm going back in. I just go whichever way I feel like going. It doesn't have to be, you only have to go one way or another. So I've been all the way around and I think I need to definitely go again. So I'm going to fill in some of these gaps. But now I'm following the way that I've got the stitches laid in. So that's helped me get all the stitches following the correct angle. I'm pleased to say it's actually stopped raining here today. The wind has started, so it's really windy and it's very sunny, but it's extremely cold. So the poor plants that have started putting their buds out, they'll be shivering. In fact, if I've got time, on the end of this video, I will go out and do a little film of what's come out since I last was doing my little bit of gardening. I'm afraid I haven't managed to get out there again because it's been raining so much. And now it's really freezing cold. But the forget-me-nots are out, the primroses are out, there's tulips just starting. All of a sudden, I think all the rains just helped everything come onwards. But of course now the cold, the poor things won't like it at all. And I have no frog spawn, not this year. I think if I did have any, I mustn't have noticed it and it's been killed off, because there's definitely none there at the moment. Right, I've gone round all that and I will just thread that through. There's my thread jar. It's out of reach. Just put it there for the moment. So next colour, I'll take this mid pink. Again, I'll use 3 strands. So there's my 3 strands in. And I want this mid pink to be coming sort of a little bit further up. I might not want to put in right to the end, so I'm just going to come back down into my dark, wherever, as long as the stitch is in the right angle, it won't bother me where it lands. So I'm just going to fill in these little gaps here with the next pink. Whoops, got a knot there. These are just such simple little things to stitch, and by making them a little bit three-dimensional, it adds so much to your work. And I think you could add these onto a slow stitch piece just the same. In fact, I think I like adding all different things together. I'm going to put another stitch there. I keep thinking I'm going to wander off camera actually. It's because I'm holding it in my hand. Now, the only thing I'm going to be aware of is that as I'm coming from one little petal to the other, I know that I'm going to be cutting this out. So I don't want a strand across the back of where I might be cutting out. I have to make sure that I don't do that. I really love doing this type of long and short stitch. You can do such wonderful effects with it. I'm keeping away from the edge at the moment because I know what I'm going to be doing with the edge. So as long as you make sure that your stitch goes down into the darker colour that you've used before. You don't have to be looking for an end or a place. See on that bit there, if I pull it up, I'm just going to put my needle in and it'll just camouflage together and the gradation will be fine. And I'm back to the beginning actually. That was quite quick. Just going to put one more piece in there, I think, and finish that off. Just thread back and forwards, and I'll bring that up there waiting for the next one. So the next one, I'm going to get this very pale one that's a bit variegated. I could knock this down to 2 strands. I think I'll still try 3 and hope that it's not too thick. Now, to be able to cut this out, I need to have the edge secured. Now, I don't particularly want a raw edge because it's not the sort of thing that's going to look right as a raw edge, I don't think. So I am going to come up in the middle here, and I'm going to do tiny blanket stitch around the edge. Oh, because it's in the hoop, I'm doing the blanket stitch in 2 motions. Go down, then come back up through the loop. And I'm going to do this blanket stitch as close together as I possibly can. And I'm going to take it right round the edge. Now, if we were doing a more formal stumpwork flower, I'd be laying a wire in here so that it would make it more able to be manipulated. But I don't need the wire for this type of a thing, and I'm happy just to carry on putting this little blanket stitch edge round. It will be fine for what we're doing, and it gives a good introduction of just how you can cut this piece out and put it on, and it's just going to make the little bit of embroidery look that little bit extra. I'm keeping it as tight. I think I need to I do need to do it in 2 motions. So I'm going to keep this little bit of blanket stitch as small and as tight together as I can. I'm quite happy that I'm going to have some white sheet that's unstitched. I may fill it in with this and I may not. And I could have just as easily done this blanket stitch bit at the very beginning and done the shading afterwards. For this, it doesn't make any difference. You can do it in whichever order you feel works for you. I'm just going down, coming back up on my drawn line and making sure that I pull that blanket stitch loop nicely around the edge. And you can see how it's making a beautiful edge to this little petal. Just turning my hoop as ever it needs, just so I can get the shape around. Just going to take that in. Come back down the other side of the petal. After I've done this day's stitch journal, I'm immediately going to be starting a new project that I just had in my head so much. I just thought, don't put it off anymore, just get on and start it. And it's to do with the fact that I found all those bits of driftwood and things. And I also have the lovely green silk shirt that I thrifted when I was in Paris. And it just seemed the perfect thing to do this experiment with. And so I've actually got it here. Going to be doing something with that. And that bit of green silk. And I've never done anything like what I'm going to do. It's going to be the first time, but I just have such a vision of what it is in my head. I just have to start. I hope you know what I mean. If you get something and you just think, I have to do that now. And I've been putting it off because I had other things to do. But I'm going to do it immediately this is finished. And so you'll probably see that. It won't possibly be finished. It's going to be too big a project to finish in one go. But it might be like a part 1 and a part 2 or something. So I'm just going to hope that it works. Okay, so I've got one little petal finished, and I'm not sure that I'll actually put any more stitching in there. I could use this, and I could use a paler one and shade again, but actually I think I really like the fact that it's half stitched and half not stitched. So I'm going to carry on and go around the next one, the next one. I'll have to finish all of them before I can cut any out. So I may or may not do that on camera. Depends how long it takes. It's a very pretty graded thread. I really like it. I don't think I've used it before on anything, but it just seemed like it was the perfect colour. And when you're doing your little blanket stitch around, be aware that you're going to ultimately try and make the blanket stitch legs fall into the way of the petal. By what I mean is I'm going that way here, but I'm trying ultimately that the stitches will fall themselves into the same angle as the rest of them. And it's just carrying on round and angling in every time. And it will make your petals or leaves or whatever else you're doing, it'll make them look so much more natural if your stitch lines can follow what would be the petal veins or the leaf veins. So I'm just always aiming to get that stitch to go around. So eventually I'm the right way around. This is such a fresh pink, I love it. I do love colour. I love subtle colour, I love bright colour. I just love colour. Not for me a house that was all brown or all white or all... I'd be wanting to slap the paint on. And I never used to wear such colours either. I've only really sort of got that I'm confident enough to wear brighter colours in the last few years. So I think I was the sort of person that never dared stand out. I didn't have the confidence to do that. But now I just think, what's the harm? What's anybody going to say? Like, all they'll see is somebody who's enjoying wearing something colourful. And I think that partly can be getting older. And I'm nearly 65, so I think I should be able to wear what I like now. Anyway, that's enough of me rambling on about wearing colourful stuff. Oops, sort of nearly missed that loop. And well, I'm saying enough of me rambling, but this is another thing. Another thing I've done that I didn't used to do is realised what was the point in keeping anything for best. It's like, wear your best clothes. What am I keeping them for now? There's no reason not to wear my best clothes. If I want to wear my best clothes out to do gardening, so what? It's like, at least I'm enjoying wearing them. And I use my best china all the time, because my thought is that if I break something, at least I've had the pleasure of using it. Oh, my mum had this beautiful china tea set. I think it belonged to her grandmother. I'm not sure. Anyway, it was what was called an eclectic set, which meant that each place setting was a different colour. And so there was pink, pale blue, pale yellow, pale green, pale mauve, like that. And they're absolutely gorgeous. And they had red roses painted on the insides of the cups, and the outsides of the cups were these lovely pastel colours. And it was very, very pretty indeed. My mum had it in her china cabinet for years. I just always remember it being there. However, one day the cabinet got knocked. The shelf with this tea set on collapsed, and a lot of them got smashed. And my mum was really upset about it. Obviously, she would be. But the worst thing to me was when she said, oh, and it had never been used. And that seemed a worse crime, really, because I thought the per tea set, it was made and meant to be used. And if it had got smashed after being used, at least there's the memory of having the lovely usage of it. But to be smashed when it had never been used, that seemed to me a worse crime. And I think that's just a difference in our attitudes from what our parents and grandparents used to do, because we have so much more stuff now. And there maybe one tea set or one set of china was precious and only got pulled out for the best company. But now I don't think we need to do that anymore, because we have access to so much. And I have so many bunny plates that I collected when I was younger, and nobody wanted the old tea plates, and I used to get them for next to nothing, and collected all sorts of mismatched stuff. And some of it probably is quite expensive, and some of it is not worth anything. But I use it all, because I think if I break it, at least I used it, and it did what it was meant to do, which was be used. And it gives me great pleasure to drink out of my bonny china cups and to set the table with my bonny china plates. And it doesn't matter what it is that you like, whether you like bonny china or pottery or whatever it is. I would say just use them. Just enjoy having them, because we're lucky that we have so much choice these days. So I hardly buy anything, because I just don't need things anymore. At least I don't feel I do. I do buy bunny fabric when I go to the shows, but other than that, I just use thrifted stuff. I just, I look at something and then I think, do I actually need that? Usually I don't, so I just leave it. I don't need it. After all these years, there's nothing I need. I just need to be left in peace to do sewing, I think. And hopefully the garden as I get back to doing that. Anyway, this is coming on really pretty. I'm really liking the shape of it, and I am loving this variegated thread. I think if I can do this one in its entirety, I'll actually do the other two off camera, and then I'll come back with how to finish it all off. So if you don't have a variegated thread like I do, you can just use a really pale or even white. I think white would work really well here. I'm just making sure, if you can see, that I haven't stranded across the back of any of the petals. But I'm on my last one now. And I'm just bringing my needle up every time on my drawn line. And as close together as you can get. You definitely could. I could have gone down to 2 strands on here, and it would have definitely made a finer edge, but it would have taken me longer to sew, so I'm trying to keep the videos of as much uneditable as I can. I've realised that's where I spend so much time. So trying a different method this past couple of weeks. Oh, I don't know whether you can hear the wind. It's really wild out there. I think that will do. So I don't need to do anything else. This finishing off will be done once I'm applying it to my embroidery, and so I'm just going to do these two as well. I'll just do them in exactly the same way. I finished my 3 flowers, and I went ahead and did 3 leaves as well. And for the leaves, all I've done is draw a triangle shape, and I've done them in 3 different ways. This one was a bit of fishbone stitch, and then I've gone round the edge with blanket stitch in a darker green, because all of the things to cut out, they have to have blanket stitch around the end. It's the loop of the blanket stitch that helps secure the fabric and stops it fraying away. So that's the fishbone stitch one. This one was Cretan stitch, but again I've gone round the edge with the blanket stitch and then a little darker running stitch around the edge. And this one was blanket stitched around the edge and then blanket stitched outwards on both sides. First with the pale green and then with a dark green. And all of these I've done with all 6 strands of embroidery thread. But now the exciting thing is to take them out and get them cut out. So it's easiest just to cut them roughly out first. So just cut each little piece roughly. These are going to look so cute. That's one. And if they had been wired, they'd have been a bit finer done, but it's not going to matter for what we're doing here. And it just introduces you to the technique of being able to apply something like the bee and just make things look just a bit different. And of course you can then use this technique for all sorts of other things. You could definitely be putting a little collection or a little few of these cut out onto a little felt base, would make a lovely brooch, or on a headband, or even on a bracelet. In fact, I was supposed to be doing a bracelet after I did the bees. I just haven't got round to it yet. So now that these are all done, I'm going to cut them out really carefully. And it really is just getting a pair of fine scissors and cutting so that I hope you can see this, I'm cutting sort of into the back of the blanket stitch. You won't have any white fabric showing on the top. And you just take it carefully, angling your scissors away until you can cut out that little piece. Like that, and then you have a leaf that you can put on. And even though it's not wired, we'll still be able to do things with it. Now, I could go and cut the fabric back even further, but I'm not going to bother on these. I think that's good enough for what needs to be done here, so I'll cut the next one out. But if you start to do this, you'll see yourself why the blanket stitch is the stitch to use for this. The little loop that it leaves you is just enough to cover up the edge of the fabric. And sometimes I cut it out a bit rough and then go back. Definitely do not want to be cutting your stitches. I think it's always easier to work from the front, as you can angle your scissors behind, but know that you're not going to cut your stitches. If you haven't done it before, it can be a bit nerve-wracking, but once you start, you'll just do it. So now that all 3 leaves are cut out, I can cut the little hydrangeas out as well, and exactly the same. I'm just going to take it really carefully, angling my little scissors underneath the roll of the loop of the blanket stitch, and you'll find it will just stay together lovely. It won't come apart. Sometimes you just have to move a piece to get into it, but as long as you just keep on the side of the blanket stitch, nothing should happen. You can see it's just coming out beautifully. The neater that edge is, the neater this bit will be. As you see, I'm always moving what I'm cutting. The scissors never move. The scissors just cut forward all the time. But I think that's it. So they already look lovely. I'll clear this up. I'll get something in my needle. So it doesn't actually have to match up with anything really. I think I could have done another 2, and I might still do that. I might make another 2 flowers, but I'm going to put these on as they are for now. And I'm going to use a yellow. I'm going to use this, which is a yellowy green. That's what I'm going to use. I'll use all 6 strands. Just move them off. Get my first flower. And I think I'm going to just do it from the front. Take a little stitch. I'm going to come up through the middle of my little hydrangea flower. And I'm going to do a 3 wrap French knot, maybe 4. Pull it to the bottom, go straight down and through to the back. I actually don't think I need to anchor that on with anything else, so I'm not going to. I'm going to leave it as is. I'm going to put one of my leaves on. So maybe The leaf can go there. And so I've just come up on my background fabric. I'll go straight down through it. Make sure I'm hiding where it comes from. I'll do another couple of stitches to anchor the leaf on. Could do it in the same colour thread, but I know this is hidden, it's going to be fine. And then I'm going to just hop up to the point, because I want the leaves more held down than the flowers. And what I could do is I could actually bend this leaf in to give it a bit of a roll, but I'm not at the moment. I'm just going to come up through the tip. So I've just come right through. I'm not bothered that I'm in a different colour, because I'm going to take the tiniest stitch and I'm going to go all the way back through, and I can make this curl or I can leave it flat. I'm actually just going to leave it flat for the moment, but I take that stitch all the way back through like that, and I've sewn that leaf down. So I'm now going to just hop over. No, I'm not. I think I'm going to finish off because it's quite a long way to hop. I don't like hopping too far. So I'll just finish that off there. Again, I'm just going to come up from the top, right through to where my French knot's going to be. 1, 2, 3, 4. Back down. I think I'll just put the third one on while I'm here. Come right up the middle. One, 2, 3, 4, and back down. Can you see how lovely those little petals are curling? That's just because the fabric was under tension in the hoop. It's been stitched and now it's relaxed and it's just going to have a little curl. But that's to our advantage because it's going to make them look super pretty. I'll just hop over here and put another leaf on. And then I'll just make sure it's at the angle that I want it to be. I think I want it to be out there a bit. And I'll hop up to the top. Come right the way through and make a tiny little stitch back to the back to anchor it down. Finish that off and decide where the last leaf's going to go. This is my last leaf going on. Tiny little stitch to put it to the fabric, and I'll finish that off. Now then, if I look at that, I definitely feel as if I need to do some more little flowers because they look super gorgeous. I feel as if I need another one here and another one here at least. But at the moment, I can leave it at that and know that that little centre thing is really nice. And the background showing through, it's adding to the whole thing because I've just done what was on the background. So I'm just going to look for something and I'm going to do these last couple of seams with something quite simple, I think. I've put some of this lovely variegated pearl cotton in my needle and I think it's a 5, so it's a thickish one, but it's got the lovely colours of the hydrangeas there, and I thought it might just be really nice to come up and do a simple little hydrangea looking stitch right along the edge of here. And so all I'm going to do are going to be 4 detached chain stitches, and then I'll come back with the greeny French knot. So there's 1, 2, Oh, got my bee caught. There we go. And up for the fourth one. Just leave a tiny little bit in the middle where I can put a French knot in. I'm just going to do them as if they're going round in a little square, so they're going out to the four corners. And then I'll immediately hop up, so I'll leave a little bit of a gap to do the next one. That's the perfect colours to go with the hydrangeas. It's showing up well on the grey, that's for sure. They're going to look really nice. I'm actually going to do them right the round and right the way to there, right the way around to there, I think. I'm going to use this bit of darning wool, nylon cotton. It is vintage, so I'm going to use it doubled up in the needle. I'm going to go to the trusty herringbone stitch, so across the actual divide, and I'll just do it quite close together. I think in the end the raw edges worked really well on this piece of embroidery. It was a bit of an experiment, but it has worked very well. I know it's not traditional, but it's sometimes you've just got to experiment and see what happens. I think I'm going to come back along, and on the B side I'm going to take some straight stitches, a shorter one and then a longer one. Now I've got a little bit of pearl cotton in my needle, and I'm going to come along here and I'm going to do a little fly stitch around that. And then put its leg out the other side. Just go over the cross, come up for this one. Little fly stitch. What I feel I want to do is just get some beads and put them on there like little pearly flowers. So I'm going to do that, go and find some beads. Just putting in the final one. I actually didn't have anything else that I felt was suitable. Some of my beads are just very tiny from doing very tiny beading. So sometimes it's hard to find one that the needle will go through, but actually they look fine. I've used some knitting beads, ones that I've used in a shawl, silver and pink. So I think that looks really nice. Oh no, I've got one more here. One more seam. Let's see, what am I going to do with that one? For this very last seam, I'm going to do an interlaced running stitch. So I've actually got a soft cotton in my needle, and I'm just going to make some even running stitches both sides of this seam, and then I'll take a contrast thread through both sides of the running stitches. So I'm just going to I'm taking them about 1/4 of an inch long, and I'm going to do one row on this side of the join of the two fabrics, and I'm going to come back with another row, and I'm going to do another row of running stitch on the other side of the join, and I'm going to make sure that they're actually in a row with each other so that they're not staggered. The stitches and the gaps are lined up together. This is nice done on a curve as well, and if you're doing it on a curve, then you'll find that on the outside of the curve the stitches will be longer, and on the inside they'll be shorter, because it's important that you stitch them exactly in a line with each other. I'm going to use all 6 strands of this orange, and so I'm going to come up in this corner, and then everything will be done on top of the fabric. I won't be going back through the fabric until I come to the end. So I'm going to go up through both of them. Just use my eye of my needle to do it. And then I'm going to come over the top of this one and back through the bottom one. And then skip along to these two, come up them, and I'll go over this and back down that one. And I'm going to come right the way along, looping through both sets of running stitches. And it's a nice way of going across the whole seam to hold everything together. And it looks really nice if you use 2 contrasting threads. And this is going to be the last. Now, I like having the little loop here, that looks really nice. I like the little looping down. I think maybe I want to just do a little bit something else. I think I'm going to do a French knot. So I'll do a 2 wrap. And I'm going to go back along the row with a French knot on the end. And this will be the finishing row of this page. One more, and done. The last snip, and I'm calling this page finished. I really like how this whole thing's come out. It's ended up super colourful. There's been new stitches and old stitches, and finishing with these 2 stumpwork pieces. I hope you'll give this a try with something you've got, whether it's a hydrangea or a peony or a rose petal. It doesn't matter what it is. Let's just take the image and make it again. I had quite fine cotton, so I used a double layer to just give some substance to it. Always nice to work on a double layer of cloth if you can, but no wires, just blanket stitching round the edge as closely as you can. And I was using 3 strands in all of them. If you wanted to go finer, definitely it would look good with 2, but I think to use any more wouldn't be as good. So I'll just leave you with that. Crazy patchwork stitches completed. Stopped raining, and so it's a lovely sunny day, even though it's cold, hence the jumper. So I thought I'd do my outro from the garden and say that I really hope that you will enjoy doing something like this on your piece of stitch journal. You can do it with roses, any little image that you might have, especially if it's floral or leaves. Just have a go. It's simple stitching, just carefully when you cut it out, and you'll be amazed at how different it makes your piece of embroidery. And then you can apply that type of thing to all sorts of other things. So So I'd just like to say thank you for watching. I'm going to leave you with a little bit of film of what's out in the garden now. I have been coming out to get little photographs of things from a phonology reel, but I haven't been out to do anything because it's been so wet. But at long last, it's dry, it's sunny, and I'm hoping I'll get onto something within the next day or two if I can. That's when I've finished filming the next video, of course. So with no further ado, I'm going to turn you around and I'm going to show you just what's out and about in my garden at the end of April. Well, this lovely spring flower is actually a wildflower, and it's a lamium, and it's very pretty, and the bees like it. And that's almost taken over quite a big patch. Needs to be cut back a bit, but it's pretty. The forget-me-nots are out, which I absolutely love, and so are the primula. There are narcissus and tulips and dog's tooth violet and spring snowflake. There are violets and dandelions and hellebore and honesty. It has the lovely capsules in the autumn. The apple blossom is out, and so are the beautiful arching stems of the dicentra. They're beautiful. Little blue scilla, and the blossom and the bees on the hexacorda. The troilus is nearly out. That'll be beautiful pale yellow, and it's by the pond. And also things like Jack by the hedge, which is a wildflower. Some might call it weeds, but still has a pretty little flower. And up in this corner is an alpine clematis. I'm afraid it needs a bit of cut back, but I can't cut it while it's got all these flowers on it. So it'll have to wait a bit longer. But it's all over the place. There's a bee on this dead nettle. I'm really enjoying the early pollen, early nectar. So I just think I'm going to wave bye-bye from here. Bye-bye everyone. Thank you for stopping by Marion's World. I hope you've enjoyed this week's stitch journal and the little finish of the garden flowers. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.